Hey guys, welcome back to Black Squirrel Media. Is editor Nicholas here? Not actual video Nicholas. Just here to give you kind of like the introduction to this because I had some audio problems at the beginning of this video, which I'm currently looking into. I don't know exactly what happened, but I decided that I'll do a proper intro here. So this video is just going to be basically talking about different kinds of sources and where we get all of our information from, and different sources that we would recommend to you guys. Uh, all of these sources will be in the description down below for you guys to check out. And throughout this video, we'll periodically talk about each and every one of them. So, hope you guys enjoy. At least for me, it's too important of a topic to not talk about or ignore.
It's a bit of a humanitarian crisis, definitely some unfortunate times going on over in Europe right now, especially for the people of Ukraine who basically, just try to live in peace every day. And, the last month their world basically got shooken up. That's the best way to put it. It got completely rocked, actually.
Yeah. As the time of recording this, we're recording this on March 9th, 2022. It has been, I think, almost 2 weeks to the day since Russia declared war on Ukraine and did a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But
Yeah.
just want to give a quick background of why this isn't super important to me. Is I actually, so if you trace back in my family, my great grandfather was actually born in Ukraine. Now he's German, but he was born in the Ukraine part that was at the time controlled by Austria-Hungary. Just having that kind of like connection, and then also I just know so many people that are have Ukrainian heritage and still have family there. And I've also been fortunate to visit Eastern Europe. I did not go to Ukraine, but I did go to Poland and the Czech Republic and Hungary and all those places. And just seeing the videos of Ukraine, just the architecture is just so similar that I don't know. It just felt more of like that personal connection to this.
This becomes like an everybody issue, right? Because we've seen this so many times in history before where, someone rises up and wants to use that power for exactly what's going on right now. And
Mm.
I think it's important to raise awareness so that, first off, history doesn't repeat itself, and then, to educate to continue that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's widely important to, be like, again, like Nick said, we don't talk about politics, but I feel like this is it's a big enough global issue that, like, I think it's important that everybody's aware to something like this, whatever your political views are.
So first I have, I'm going to pull it up just over, at least on my screen here, on our, over our Discord call here, is I have a map of Ukraine that gives you like a lot, I wouldn't say live, because like that's nearly impossible, but as like quick as they possibly can updates on what's going on. It just shows you a whole map of everything. So that is that. I might edit that in. I'm going to quickly share my screen here so Josh can see what the heck I'm talking about. But it's this map right here. I did link this in our D&D Discord a few weeks back.
Oh yeah.
Talking to Jason, but basically it gives you just different updates on the side right here, and also shows you different icons and like, okay, what's going on here? Like red is like different combats of what Russian soldiers are doing. Blue is like Ukrainian updates and shows you where like the firefighting is, the official territory that Russia has taken over, which is in the red right here. And it's really good of seeing, okay, what the heck's going on within the last bit. And this is a pretty damn reliable source right here. They also have different things like in Syria. I know they had the Ethiopia civil war. They have Yemen.
Yeah, I feel like I briefly glanced over this when you shared it in like our Discord, like you said, our Discord group. Yeah, honestly, I think it's interesting. That's for sure. It's kind of interesting. I mean, like, first, I think the first reason it's kind of interesting is the biggest part of it was like I'm pretty sure Putin was pretty convinced that they're going to take Ukraine in like no time at all. So it is kind of wild to see.
It was less
Or
than two
well,
weeks was the
yeah,
gap.
that this is yeah, exactly like it, but now it's 2 weeks and like I don't know, you're looking at like the map and Ukraine has done an incredible job of defense at this point. Like it's just
Yeah.
like it's wild. It's just yeah, it's been wild to watch and like again like it looks like they've taken some parts, but yeah, again like that's nowhere near where I think Russia was expecting to be 14 days into this situation. Like you said, yeah, they want to take it in less than 2 weeks. So this was supposed to be like up and down
Yeah.
before
Uh,
like
we'll get into that later of like uh like
yeah.
why the Ukrainians are putting up such a good fight and like the problems on
Yeah.
Russia's end.
Well, and I think that is important, you know, to have those live updates because again, it gives you like a topical idea of like what exactly is going on, where the Russians have made it to. And again, like in war, like maps are kind of crucial, right? Because like that's how you kind of know everything basically, right? Like that's what they use for strategy. So I think it's important for people to yeah, again, just stay aware on like exactly like what the situation is. And
So
again,
another one that I do follow on Twitter is the Kiev Independent, which is like a newspaper for the capital city of Ukraine, Kiev. And basically it's in English too, which is the nice part, and gives you just on top journalism of what is happening in Ukraine. And then of course another one, which I'm sure a lot of you do know, is the President Zelensky, his Twitter or Instagram. I don't know if he has Facebook. I'm sure he does too, but I follow him on Twitter. I personally don't have Instagram, but I do know he does have Instagram. So and he's definitely on those two a lot. So those are real credible because you're getting information directly from the president of Ukraine itself, right? So
right.
uh, now keep in mind, like both of these are like so the Kiev Independent, even though it's like it's not associated with the Ukrainian government, it's still going to be complete. Like it's going to be like biased completely towards the. I shouldn't bias is not the right word, but it's going to use more like the Ukrainian propagandas, which the
Right.
biggest thing to worry about is a lot of times in war, countries will exaggerate the casualties of the other side. So both Russia and Ukraine will be doing this. Uh,
Right.
so a good general is like go somewhere closer to the middle. Now, what I'm finding so far is that the Ukrainian tends to be more right, but I still don't think like they're 100%. If that
Right.
makes sense, right? Their boots on the ground in Kiev and other places in Ukraine. I know they have talks in or some stuff in what was it Kharkiv is the second largest city, right? Let me look on the map here. Kharkiv, I'm pretty sure is the name. Yeah, Kharkiv is the second largest city, which has been a lot of fight in there. And then they have another branch in Odessa that I am aware of. They probably have more in more places, but that's the ones I know, with the primary being in Kiev, the capital, right now. But and then another one, which this is for anything that has to do with military information. Now they don't just specialize in Ukraine; they do have updates on, like they had recent updates on North Korea sent some test like missile testing towards South Korea, but that happens every few months. Nothing unprecedented there. Like they talk about Yemen and other stuff too, but it's called Global Military Info on Twitter, and they've been pretty reliable too.
Yeah, like I mean like those are all good. Obviously like online resources are great. I think like that is one benefit of like the internet now. Find like what Nick's already shown, live feeds, Twitter feeds, websites where like they're posting articles.
Mm-hmm.
I guess even like outside of that, honestly, like even like because obviously not everybody is a researcher. I get that. Like it's important to do some research, but like some people are very like they want to dive into all of it. Great.
Mm-hmm.
But even even if like you're just listening to like I like at least like in Canada, right? We have stuff like CBC, which is I feel like is like a pretty reliable source. You also like just trusting some of like your news networks to a certain degree too to kind of keep you updated on what's going on if you don't have the time to necessarily like go through everything. But again, like they go hand in hand. So like, you hear something on the news, it's always good to fact check it. I've done that before. I hear
Mhm.
something, I'm like, wow, did it actually happen like that? And then you go on, oh, that's pretty insane. Other times you're like, well, that's not even close to what actually happened. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess like that'd be my other thing too is, trust, like just use as many different sources as possible.
Your Anon News, it's called on Twitter now. It basically is the anonymous news. And they're right now, Anonymous is, I don't know if you heard, but Anonymous is like, they declared a cyber war on Russia for this Ukraine thing. And their Anon News is like basically their official news source thing that they have on Twitter.
Right.
So that's like 7.8 million followers on Twitter, and
Oh wow.
they've been doing a lot of focus on the Ukraine and Russia stuff. And so you'll get like a lot of really good updates with them, and anything that has to do with like what they're doing in the
Yeah.
cyber realm, cyber warfare, what boots on the ground, like what they're doing too. What I like about them is they also are given perspectives of actual Russians that are anti-war here on the news too, and they've been hacking into a lot of the official Russian programs and showing official Ukraine footage and stuff like that. And you'll get all that updates on your own news. Now, I don't know. I'm sure they're on Facebook and probably Instagram and stuff too. Now,
Yeah.
again,
I mean, I know what we know what Anonymous is, but maybe Nick, you can kind of explain for people that maybe don't know who or like what Anonymous is or what they do. Did you kind of that
okay,
explain?
yeah. Well, I feel like I'm doing all the talking. Do you want to explain it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not super in deep with Anonymous. From what I understand, basically, it's a community of like hackers that basically their whole thing is that like I mean, they have a lot of control on the web kind of thing. Just they're just a group that can, yeah, like Nick said, like they've declared cyber war on Russia, and they're quite capable of it. Again,
Yeah.
like they have some talented people that just know their tech, they know how to hack, and basically, yeah, that's what they do. I think they cause like something to happen on Facebook like a few years ago, where like
Yeah,
they
they
cracked
did.
something on Facebook, if
They've done a
and
lot.
like it caused like, yeah, basically like they're on the reason they're called anonymous is like you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the movie, is it like V for Vendetta?
Yeah,
That's typically like the only time you see them. They're like they wear those masks and stuff. So yeah, basically like anytime anything, yeah, again, it's just they just work through the web. I think I remember like the another headline was when that movie with James Franco and Seth Rogen came out, The Interview, and like North Korea was like threatening whatever to like get them to not release it. Like Anonymous, I guess, stepped in and was like, we're gonna like get a copy of it and just like release it to people.
I,
Yeah,
I'm biased 100% here. I think Anonymous is actually one of the
yeah,
there's a lot of bad hacking groups out there, but I think Anonymous is one of the good ones out
yeah,
there. Like they are generally
right,
fighting for really good causes and stuff. Like all of their like they
yeah,
you see what they're capable of, but what they steer their capabilities towards is for like equal rights between people, freedoms of speech and just all these like other things. That's why they and like anti-corruption and
yeah,
stuff like that. So that's why they often target really corrupt politicians, big businesses,
yeah.
or in this case, something like Russia, where they're. I don't know how you can possibly defend Russia unless you're like in Russia and you're only getting like Russian state media.
And I guess what's interesting about it, right, is like this isn't like any kind of like government group or something that was like it's just formulated by people I'm pretty sure
Just
online that just decide to
ordinary
like,
people. Yeah.
yeah. So it's very grassroots, which is always interesting
Yeah,
because
and it's funny how you
it means,
said the
yeah,
comparison for Via Vendetta, because
yeah,
they often use like different quotes and meanings from that
yeah,
movie as like their message. And if you've seen Via Vendetta, it's basically the whole premise is like destroying the corrupt elite and
yeah,
having like a revolution of sorts for the people, having a free,
Yeah.
just society of the people for the people, actually of the people for the people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's really good what they do, and they've been uh, doing all that kind of stuff. Now, later, I have a video of their actual. They actually released a video of their declaration of war, which I don't know if you've seen, Josh. I haven't watched all of it, but we'll watch that together and give you more updates on what Anonymous is actually
Yeah.
doing at a later time. So Nfkrz, yes, he is an actual Russian YouTuber that caters more to the West. So he's like, all of his videos are in English. He's been given like his last two videos, especially, which is titled Russia versus Sanctions and Russia is Cancelled, are very good videos, and they're short videos, like they're just over 10 minutes long, give or take. They're just really good at giving a perspective of an ordinary Russian that is not associated at all with the Russian government. I would really recommend checking him out because I think he gives a really cool and unique perspective on things.
Well, and I think that's good, because like again, I think what people need to remember, as much as we can be frustrated with Russian politicians right now, um, the thing is, I don't think a big thing that we have to remember is that like we have to still keep that human part of us that knows that this is right. Like you have to like I've seen stories where like I think like what like a week and a bit ago like literally like 1,500 or so protesters in Russia got arrested. It was like they're really, like protesting against the war, and then and then they got rounded up. I don't know exactly what happened to them. Like it's probably just like either got charged, got arrested. I don't know. And I think that's why it's crucial to remember that, like, because again, during war and stuff, like, there's so much hate that kind of gets drawn up between the different countries, right? Because like that's what like that's what kind of drives the kind of thing is like you need to like hate your enemy as much as possible. But again, when we're trying to resolve this situation right now, it's important to remember that, like, yes, well, maybe it's like politicians and stuff of a certain country that are making these decisions.
Putin.
Exactly, Putin. It doesn't mean that every is with like is pro whatever they're doing. Right? Like,
No, I'm really glad you mentioned that. I
yeah,
think it's really important to have that distinction, especially in these times. I mean,
yeah,
again, we'll talk more later, specific about what is happening within Russia and the resistance
yeah,
to that, and what that will mean for like Putin and stuff like that.
yeah,
So, but that'll be for a later. But because there's a lot of developments
yeah,
with that. Now, another actually source that I actually didn't write down here, but I have to give them bravo is now I've had mixed feelings about CNN overall, but I think CNN's
yeah,
coverage of the Ukraine crisis has been phenomenal. I mean, they have people literally all on the ground all over Ukraine. Now, I am a big fan of Anderson Cooper. Just like he's very passionate about what he does, and he's often, even though he's like probably the most famous, well-known CNN anchor, that he would not be in a position where he'd have to be one of those guys to actually travel to these war zones. He still does it anyway because he wants to be on the ground and experience what the people and people are experiencing and share that with the world. Like he has the true passion of a journalist, and I've been seeing that all over with CNN, and they're just phenomenal coverage of the Ukraine situation. You can say whatever you want about CNN outside of that, because I have my own distinctions with CNN, but overall I think CNN has done a phenomenal job with
yeah.
Ukraine. That I think they're one of the best sources you can go to for that, for any information.
Yeah, another one that I typically enjoy, like I don't mind as well, is also like the BBC.
Yes,
It's a
BBC's good too.
it's a British source, but like I've always found that like they are incredibly, yeah, they have like the educated opinions and stories and stuff that like do kind of resound like credibility. Again, obviously, not no news station is perfect. I'll say
Um,
that. So yeah.
and then I do follow the New York Times too, and I think the New York Times,
Yep.
again, they do have their issues too, but I think they have fantastic reporters and stuff there. I don't really listen to their opinion pieces, which I think is the general issue that a lot of people have is their opinion pieces.
Yeah.
But like their actual like reporting and
Yeah.
journalism is phenomenal in my opinion. One I don't maybe we'll do a reaction to it because I don't know if you've seen this, but it's real life lore on why Russia is attacking Ukraine. It's a long video. It is like 34 minutes or something like that, but it really explains it in
Yeah.
as unbiased way as It's just they just like here's the facts and here's why everything's happening. So
It's
if you want a real
yeah.
good understanding of what's going on, this real life lore is the video is probably the best for it. In fact, it was so
Yeah.
good that even Elon Musk gave them a shout out on Twitter. No,
Um
this video does explain
yeah.
some of the history aspect, but it also explains more of the modern reasons
Right.
why that a lot of that I haven't seen really explained in any of their media. Like it talks about there's a
Right.
huge gas deposits just outside of Crimea, and that was a
Yeah.
huge indication for Russia invading Ukraine. Is these huge gas deposits and stuff like that? There,
Right.
like there's you don't hear much about that and stuff like that. So. No, it gives a really good.
Yeah.
I could not recommend that video enough. Videos. This guy is a really good journalist. His name Johnny Harris on YouTube. Don't know if you know him.
I don't recognize the name. I'm gonna be honest. I do not
Well,
know.
I recommend. I think he's a fantastic freelance journalist now.
Is
In
it
general,
Johnny Harris?
Johnny Harris, yeah, he has an older video on like Putin's greatest enemy and stuff like that. It talks about the inner politics and corruption of Russia. Now that's like a year old, I think, when those mass protests were happening in Russia. I think at the beginning was it
Right.
last year or the year before.
Interesting.
But he has really good like this like he's uploaded three I think really interesting videos in the last while that talks about the whole geopolitical landscape. So the first one is the real reason Putin is invading Ukraine. Currently
Right.
has 7.8 million views. That would be probably one of the most recommended. And I think another video that ties right into that is Putin will lose, and here's why. And I 100% agree with that. And again, we'll talk about later about why I think, and and I
Yeah.
guess your opinion too, on why I think Putin has no way of obtaining victory in Ukraine at this point.
Yeah.
And then he also has another separate kind of, but it has to do with the geopolitical landscape, like I said before, is here's what happens if China invades Taiwan. Now, there's been a lot of speculation on while the world's distracted with this Ukraine Russia thing, would China see this as an opportunity to invade Taiwan? I
Right.
kind of lean towards no, especially with the world backlash towards Russia.
Yeah.
But it's still a good perspective on like what would
Yeah.
happen in that case scenario. So I'd highly recommend. I think all those videos are worth a watch of your time if you want to know any more information about this.
Yeah. And I mean, the funny thing about like the independent journalists is that they're vastly interesting because the cool thing is compared to like working with like a news station sometimes, not in a bad way, but it's just like they have a bit of an agenda, right? Like it is their news is always based on what's headlining.
Mhm.
Um, that's why I mean this is a different thing, but that's why I think it's always funny sometimes when people are like, "Well, the government controls the media." I believe, while to some degree that might be true, I think an other part of it too that people sometimes don't realize is that like if there's a story that everybody's like super into and watching, that's probably what's going to headline because like that's how you kind of get that's how you get viewership, right? You talk about the stories that people seem to care about the most.
Mhm.
But again, so going back to the individual journalists, right? They can kind of pick and choose how they do stuff on YouTube. And then I've even seen them like, I've even seen a couple of them on like TikTok. They'll like do like these short videos kind of like on like updates and stuff. And then yeah, like they can be found everywhere, right? You can find them on YouTube, you can find them on Twitter, you can find it like all these places as well. So like I think like that's kind of the cool thing is that with individual journalists create their own like persona, what stories do they want to cover? Are they more political? Are they more entertainment? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they almost like they get very like focused on that in a good way, and then like that's all, and then they're just like a plethora of like extra knowledge that maybe you're not getting from a news station where they have to be well versed on a variety of topics. It's like this person can just focus on that
Yeah.
kind of like that specific topic,
Yeah.
because then with YouTube people can choose whether or not they want to follow it, right? So
I
yeah,
couldn't
individual journalists are great.
I couldn't
They're
agree more. And I think Johnny Harris is one of the best.
yeah,
What I really like about his is like he's really good at motion and graphic design. So like he will give you really good edits, of course, too, and stuff like that. But he gives you amazing maps that really show you what the heck's going on and stuff like that,
right.
right? Because I know maybe not everyone's like a map person. I'm a big map person myself, and it gives me like it just maps really help give me that visualization of
Yeah.
what's happening. So if you're more of a visual person, Johnny Harris is like one of the best for you. And a couple other smaller YouTube channels here. Arthur Ray, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Arthur Ray. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, man. If you ever, I don't know how you would see this, but if you are, man, I apologize. But he is an Estonian uh, former soldier, now YouTuber, who talks about all kinds of military things and stuff like that. But since the Ukraine conflict, he has been doing a live stream almost every day talking about it. And I just think it's really interesting because, again, you have like I've given you sources that are within Russia, and then a lot of these sources that are from like Canada, the United States, Great Britain, etc. But what his perspective is really good. He's from Estonia, which I don't know if you know where Estonia is, but Estonia is one of the Eastern European Baltic state countries that borders Russia, that is part of that is part of the EU and part of NATO. They've been like his country and all those like the Baltic states have been very what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like not prosecuted, but that's the best term I can think of at the moment. Uh, like they've just had a lot of hardships and stuff when it comes to being under Russia and
Yeah.
formerly the Soviet Union and then formerly before that the Russian Empire.
Yeah.
So gives a really good, I think, perspective on that for that side, and why like Eastern Europeans in general are very extremely like supportive of Ukraine. Like I think that
Yeah.
all of NATO is really supportive, but they bring it to a whole different level because they have I think a understanding that just we possibly can't here more in
Yeah.
the West, like, and I'm talking like Canada, U.S., France, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, etc.
Oh, I was just gonna say, well, yeah, it makes sense that we're hearing from a lot of those Eastern European countries right now. Obviously, we'll get more into like what exactly is happening, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's they have a I guess a much more personal in like just a more valuable like interest in what's going on right now. Sorry, vested interest. That's what I was thinking. Because now that Putin's decided that he wants to invade Ukraine, he's already made a bunch of threats about how like he wants to like move into like other countries and stuff now. And like again, when you're kind of like on the border of what's going on right now, yeah, I could. It's definitely important to hear from those people because they're like basically like the ones that could be like directly affected if this goes any longer. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to predict any
Yeah.
what the future holds. But again, like, yeah, if I'm in Estonia on the border of this country that's decided to just like, oh, we're like invading Ukraine, of course you're going to be sitting there like, yeah, I need to know what's going on because I don't know like if next, like what's the next play, right? So
Yeah.
it's definitely I think that's a very important part of the world to be hearing is right along the border because like you can't get much unless like you're in Russia, you can't get much closer than that, right? So
Yeah. The last YouTube channel I'm gonna shout out here is it's called Speak the Truth, and they're American, from Texas, as you will easily probably tell from their videos. But I don't mean any disrespect from that. Uh, the so they are former. I think Marines, don't quote me on that. They're formerly in the military, regardless. He served in Afghanistan, Iraq, etc.
Right.
And gives that kind of like the military analyst perspective of this. And they have been uploading two incredibly detailed videos a day about the Ukraine conflict, and like as updated
Hmm.
as you possibly can with those type of videos. And then like they show whole maps and where the different, as of the last few hours, where the different fighting's going on. They'll like draw it out of like where the defensive positions are for the Ukrainians, where the Russians are attacking. So it gives you like that really good perspective, and they also show you different all kinds of different videos of what is happening there. So I think just in terms of that, I think they're one of the best for getting really good interest in information from a military perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of these guys, to be
Neither did I
completely honest.
until I happened to see them on my YouTube recommended. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing's better than like I guess a somewhat expert opinion, right? So, during a time of war and military, it's kind of again, it's kind of interesting to hear from guys that have like worked in that situation, right? Like or
yeah,
have been in to kind of get an idea, almost like an idea or perspective of like even what the soldiers or the people are going through that are actually like actively in this situation, right? Because
hmm
again, you can only kind of like theorize and kind of imagine what it's like. But again, like for people who, like you said, if they're like ex-military and stuff, they're gonna know what it's like to kind of be in those situations of
yes. Uh, Source I'm gonna link in the description below is reddit.com/, Ukrainian conflict, is where a lot of posts and stuff that we will react to, and like different videos and stuff that we'll see will be on that page. Now, warning, there's gonna be some very disturbing videos and stuff on that page that you will see, including burnt bodies, like an actual like war zone fighting, killing
right.
that you'll see in there. Now you could disable that if you disable not safe for work on Reddit, or if you don't have a Reddit account and you just go on it. I don't think you'll see
Sorry, what's the name of the thread again? Because I kind of want to find
Ukrainian conflict. It's called.
Ukrainian.
Got
Okay. Again, because I'm a visual person, so like another place that you can check on Twitter, it's some page I've actually followed. It's kind of cool. It's called Rooters. And so basically the way that so for people who don't know, so basically a lot of like news or like sports TV now can be done through what they call routers. So basically you can have cameras. Some third party can just have like cameras or footage that they like get from a certain place. And then through like either like IP addresses, these you can either get like a camera feed right back to a news station, or they can like just like send the footage in, and then like it's kind of like a library that like pull from for general B-roll and stuff. Um, that's a interesting place to kind of see video from. Now, obviously, it's not all Ukraine because like it's just a general like news footage web like Twitter page. But if you're ever wanting to see like some firsthand footage of stuff, sometimes I don't know. I'll go on there sometimes, and like if there's something that like interesting enough, um, or something that like I'm curious to see like how it's developing, then like you just go on there and you can like watch like live feeds. You can watch like short videos. Yeah, I don't know. I found like that's a pretty cool one
I'm
too.
glad you
Again,
mentioned
especially if
that.
you're visual.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I
Yeah,
just followed them on Twitter. They seem
yeah,
pretty good too. I'll check them
yeah.
out.
And again, it's good for especially if you're visual, because I know I am. So like sometimes like I'd rather see it than just kind of like hear about certain stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Kind of puts like a face to or visual to the story that you're learning about. So
Right.
yeah, this I guess this just kind of like leaves you guys with the some resources and like just some thoughts on like how to kind of do your own research before maybe you start watching some of these like just YouTubers talk about like the big picture stuff, like because again, like I don't know, I remember even in history class, we learned the history before we'd have the debates about stuff, because then you have a better picture of what is being discussed. And again,
Mhm.
it's just important to have that awareness. So yeah, definitely like check out our resources if you know of any other resources. Like yeah, just
Put them in the comments below.
yeah,
We'll appreciate them.
exactly.
And if you're like me and feel like, and if you want to at least try to do something and you're not like in a position to be able to actually do active combat or
Yeah,
like whatever else, like the basis you can do at least is like sharing of credible information and keeping the public eye and the pressure on politicians and stuff like that to offer even more like aid and assistance. That is the honestly the best thing that we can do. Well, with all that said, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe if you're interested to see more stuff like this. And also our other videos and Firkin podcast of tend to be more entertainment associated value, but
yeah,
we'll see how much people are interested in talking about this stuff because I'm always been fascinated by geopolitics and stuff like that. So if
yeah,
we did
absolutely.
delve into politics, it would be more about the geopolitics and history
Yeah,
aspect, probably. Not we would avoid most domestic
yeah,
inner politics.
yeah. History is important. Again, that's how we learn not to do the same stuff. So,
And it's fascinating, at
yeah,
least to me.
yeah, exactly. No, it is always fascinating to kind of just see where the world was, how far the world's come, all that stuff. And again,
Repeat.
it's wildly important. Yeah, is it going to repeat? We don't know sometimes, but yeah, it's always important to just like kind of know what's going on in your world today. So,
Yeah. But all right, thanks for watching it, and see you guys on the next episode of Ukraine and Russia, or whatever we're going to call it.